All right, this is an especially loaded 49ers instant reaction. I'll start with the fact that some people think that Jake Moody has won the kicking competition, but I will say that it's way more complex than that. But we saw Ricky Pearsall catch another bomb at practice today. Then Terique Owens hauled one in to end practice, 75-yard touchdown from Carter Bradley. You could see the preview of those highlights. We'll show you a little bit more later because today was very busy on the transaction front. Yes, the 49ers did release Greg Joseph, who's been competing with Jake Moody, but they did so because they need an extra roster spot, not because Greg Joseph has been underperforming. They need a lot of extra roster spots. In fact, 13 players are unavailable, plus 5 players currently on PUP, and all those guys count against the 90. Broncos coming in this week. These are the dog days of August. 49ers signed 5 healthy bodies today to help them get through this week. And Kyle Shanahan said they just couldn't afford to carry 2 kickers at this very moment. That's a luxury that they were able to have early in training camp, but not later on in camp. Joseph, 22 of 24 at camp in the field goal kicking competition. Moody, 21 of 24. You can say, well, it's essentially a tie, and the tie would go to Jake Moody, who is on the rookie contract, 2 more years of team control. But I don't think you can say that things are over at this point. If Jake Moody struggles in a preseason game and the 49ers lose confidence, then they're going to be on speed dial right back to Greg Joseph or another available kicker. Kyle Shanahan even made that very clear during his press conference today. There is a lot of injury news and a lot of signing news. I'm going to go through the injury news first because this involves players who you're already familiar with on the 49ers. The worst news for the 49ers is that Kevin Givens, defensive tackle, has been around for over half a decade, since 2019. He has hurt his pectoral muscle, and that means that he's going to be out for a while, probably into the regular season. So that's one of the reasons why the 49ers needed extra roster spots to fill out the defensive line room, because they're thin there. The Givens injury is tough. Defensive tackle is one of the question spots on this 49ers team. They're obviously rebuilding with youth, but they have wanted a veteran pillar in there to help shepherd that youth along. And more pressure now on Alfred Collins, CJ West and company to do their thing with Kevin Givens hurt. Sam Okawanu, second-year defensive end, has a groin injury. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. So that also leading to some extra thinness for the 49ers up front. Kyle Juszczyk, this is decent news. I know he left practice the other day, missed practice today. Somebody stepped on his Achilles. He didn't rupture it, he cut it. Like there's just a cut on that lower body area. So Kyle Juszczyk is just going to be out for a couple days. Day-to-day injury. Today the 49ers were running Braden Willis and Ross Dwelly and those guys at the fullback position with Juszczyk out. So anyway, those are the 3 new injury updates. Now we have all of the cuts that the 49ers made. So pay close attention here. Cut, obviously, Greg Joseph. We explained why. There's a chance he's back later. Moody's always going to have to compete. There's nothing going to be given to Jake Moody this year, that's for sure. As Kyle Shanahan said, kickers are always competing. Other positions you have room to carry multiple guys at that spot, but a kicker you don't typically. The 49ers up until now had to make room for the 2-man competition, but moving forward, they can obviously still make another swap there. Nothing here is set in cement. They also cut Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback. So they brought in Carter Bradley a few days ago, and obviously would rather get a look at Carter Bradley than Tanner Mordecai, who I thought was at a so-so camp so far, but there were definitely some very visible struggles for Tanner Mordecai compared to the awesome football that I think both Brock Purdy and Mac Jones have been putting on tape so far in practice. So this is another one where Kyle Shanahan said that it's because of the roster number crunch. And in the case of Tanner Mordecai, he even explicitly stated that they might bring him back at some point later if they have room, but they currently don't have room to carry 5 quarterbacks on the 90. It's Purdy, it's Mac Jones, it's Carter Bradley, and it's Curtis Rourke, the 7th-round pick who's on NFI coming off the ACL tear. That's 4. Mordecai was 5 on the 90. The PUP list counts toward the 90. It's not until after the 53-man cut down that it doesn't count against active rosters. So Mordecai just odd man out, one of the odd men out due to numbers right now. Same thing with Mason Pline, second-year tight end. He has been waived. Pline dropped the pass the other day. Obviously, the 49ers are looking at that tight end position right now and saying that Ross Dwelley, Jake Tonjes, Braden Willis are all higher up on the pecking order than Mason Pline to be that tight end 3 behind George Kittle and Luke Farrell. 49ers also waived the cornerback who was near the very bottom of the roster in Trey Avery. So those are 5 cuts that the 49ers made. Then they made 5 signings today. First, a couple defensive linemen, Bradley Anae and Bruce Hector, both of whom have experience under Robert Saleh, both of whom have seen some time with the New York Jets. So not surprising to see the 49ers needing to fill in for at least this week with the Broncos coming to town and the Kevin Givens injury, Evan Anderson out of practice, Nick Bosa today had a scheduled day off, so they obviously need more snaps from somewhere. Not surprising to see the 49ers do that with 2 ex-Jets players. Bradley Anae had been in the UFL and was actually the pressure rate leader in the UFL. He is an edge rusher, about 260 pounds. Hector is a defensive tackle, so that's to help fortify the snap load inside with Kevin Givens now out for probably at least a couple months, it sounds like, for the 49ers. Jalen Mahoney is back. The 49ers had cut him a few days back, but now feel that they need a little extra juice in that safety room to get through these practices, and so is Fabian Moreau. I guess Moreau's not back. This is just a signing for the 49ers. You might have heard of Fabian Moreau. He's a 32-year-old corner. He's been around the league for a while. UCLA product. Fabian Moreau now joins the 49ers. He's going to give them some experience on the back end where they also, I think, need some physical help to get through some of these practices. Both Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green still out. But what we're going to see Deommodore Lenoir back in action really, really soon for the 49ers. In fact, I even think they're starting to ease him back into things coming off of the hip injury. The 49ers also added an offensive tackle, Isaiah Prince, who I will say looks a little on the light side. He's definitely in shape, but his build more like a really strong tight end than your typical offensive tackle. Not nearly the width that the 49ers have with the other tackles on the roster. Prince started down the stretch for the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2021 season. That was obviously a Super Bowl run for the Bengals. So he's got some ability, he's got some movement ability for sure with the height-weight combination that we're seeing with Isaiah Prince. The 49ers are in a spot where at that offensive line, you're giving Trent Williams days off at the start of every block. Colton McKivitz was sore the other day, was back at practice today. So again, you are working to make sure that you stay as fresh as possible and you don't maximize or overwork snap loads for any of your players. So a lot of these moves at the back end of the roster are going to be really necessary. Hopefully that helps explain some of the strategy here. I guarantee you that more than one of the players cut today will be re-signed at some point by the 49ers. That's just how roster construction in the dog days of August works. You've got to continually be refreshing the back end of that roster to make sure that you can make it through training camp. All right, time to talk about practice today. A look at some of the new bodies the 49ers brought in. There's the veteran cornerback Fabian Moreau, number 43, working through some early special team stuff for the 49ers. Robbie Chosen, veteran wide receiver, also 32 years old, whom the 49ers signed on Sunday. Robbie Chosen said that he could have stayed in San Francisco last year, but for family reasons decided to go to Miami under Mike McDaniel instead. He was with the 49ers for 15 days in August. There's a look at Carter Bradley, wearing the number 17, 49ers newly minted third string quarterback. Now we could start to look at some of the 49ers' new defensive line additions. Bruce Hector, formerly of the New York Jets, getting some pre-practice warm-up in. And now we get to watch the sled drill. This one's always really fun. You know, Alfred Collins, I thought in one-on-ones, he had a couple wins. This wasn't good right here. He wasn't ready to get off, but they gave him a second rep at things. And the get off for Alfred Collins and some of the power that he showed and the pad leverage was much improved. And it has been much improved over the past 2 practices. I think it's just a matter of Alfred Collins finding his legs. In college, you can get away with not having that good crouch, that good low leverage. By the way, CJ West, watch his leverage on the right side. You can get away with it in college because you're stronger than everybody. But if you show up to the NFL and you don't play with the proper technique, no matter how big and strong you are, it's probably not going to work out. So I think Alfred Collins is taking steps forward in that regard. Go through what happened at practice today. Started with an awesome matchup. George Kittle, who's been on fire throughout this training camp, I think can continue today. He made a couple nice catches for the 49ers, but they ran play action and they decided to push it deep on the very first play. Purdy going for Kittle. Guess who was in great coverage? Guess who knocked that ball away? Fred Warner. Two future Hall of Famers there, right? Two guys who signed new contracts with the 49ers this offseason. Warner and Kittle about 25, 30 yards downfield. I thought that it set a great competitive tone for practice today. Just a few plays later, once the second team quarterback, Mac Jones, took the field, he aired out a beautiful bomb to Terique Pearsall. We're talking deep corner, 45 to 55 yards downfield. And it was a rainbow. I know that Mac Jones throws with really, really good touch, and it found Terique Pearsall in stride, would have been a touchdown. And I know that the last time that we were out on that practice field before the day off on Saturday, Terique Pearsall tore it up, 5 catches and 5 targets. Well, he continues really, really lighting it up for the 49ers out on that practice field. And I think, now Ricky's in a position where the 49ers, I talk about them being thin at D-line, O-line, running back, no Jordan James yet, receiver who's been this revolving door at the back end of that position room. It's really important for Terique Pearsall or somebody in that room to step up and be that star fixture, the A-list pillar. They've got A-list pillars at almost every other position. Brandon Ayuk obviously can't be that guy while he's still on PUP. So why not Terique Pearsall? Why can't he assume that leadership role? I think he has. I think he's blossoming toward becoming a star player, maybe a 1,000-yard plus season for Terique Pearsall this year. We heard from Terique Owens, by the way, a couple times today. Early on, a bullet from Carter Bradley, crosser to T.O.'s son, Terique Owens. Nice catch, started running with the football. And then later on, Carter Bradley with the bomb to Terique Owens. That one was a lot of fun to watch. Now, there is a chance that would have been a sack in a real game because Bradley Ane, who's the new edge rusher, he was having a day. Maybe 3 sacks. We can't tell because the quarterbacks can't be taken to the ground. But Bradley Ane, coming off the edge, seemed to get to Carter Bradley, but he can't touch Bradley. So Bradley got the ball off, and we saw Terique Owens blowing by Derek Canteen for the touchdown. But just keep in mind that Bradley Ane made some plays today, at least against second and third team offensive linemen at 49ers practice. He led the UFL in pressure rate, so obviously has some ability at those 260 pounds. Oh my goodness, Upton Stout. This guy maturing right in front of our eyes, making play after play after play. I talk about how good Terique Pearsall has looked. Well, Upton Stout went toe-to-toe with Pearsall on an out pattern and just playing much larger than his 5'8" frame, leapt up into the air, knocked the ball away. We've seen Upton Stout play well on the perimeter as well as on the inside. I know the 49ers have penciled him in as a slot cornerback with his 5'8" size, but the key with Upton Stout is that he plays much larger than 5'8". This guy is obviously making the team, and I think he's on his way to a starting position. Biggest hit today, Chaz Surratt. This is the linebacker who used to be a quarterback, the crazy position transition, University of North Carolina, now wears the number 46. He went out and laid some wood on Corey Kiner. Big hit. They can't wrap up and bring guys to the ground, but that one popped from across the entire practice field. You know who caught a few passes today? And a lot of this is because of the fact that the 49ers are a little short-handed in that running back room. But Amir Abdullah, 32-year-old back, I know they brought him in to really bridge the gap. One more injury I failed to mention a little earlier. Isaac Guerendo, shoulder, is going to be out at least a couple weeks. So that's made the running back room even thinner, right, with Jordan James day-to-day with the knee issue. Amir Abdullah, former Raiders running, he's been with a lot of teams, Lions, Raiders, amongst the teams, kick return specialist for a lot of his career, caught 40 passes for the Raiders last year. He's been catching a lot of balls out of the backfield, and I think that he's actually been running well. 32-year-old, so doesn't have the freshest legs, but he's a vet, and he's definitely helping the 49ers out as the first preseason game approaches. One-on-ones today were a whole lot of fun. I'm keeping a close eye on Alfred Collins because we talked to Robert Saleh and talked to just anybody who really knows defensive line play will always tell you that one of the toughest transitions to make is for a tall defensive lineman from college to the NFL, especially if he's got enough strength to dominate people in college. He's sometimes not exactly playing with the leverage he's going to need to play with at the NFL level. And I think that the legs and that drive and getting low, that's been the issue for Alfred Collins throughout the first couple weeks of camp, and I really do think that it's improving at this point. We first raised the issue a few days ago, and at this point he won a couple one-on-one reps today. Just looked a much more lower to the ground and much more comfortable than he had looked at any point really of training camp. So the 49ers are confident that Collins and his immense ability will continue to shine through, and I thought that it obviously did today. We saw a really nice bull rush today from Michael Williams, and this was against Isaiah Prince, the new offensive tackle. I talked about him a few minutes ago. Isaiah Prince looks a little light to me, might be 280. I don't think he's 300 pounds. Michael, length, the power with the bull rush. Really nice play. My favorite battle today during one-on-ones was at defensive tackle versus offensive guard. CJ West, we all know that he's a whole heck of a lot of fun to watch. He's got a gift pushing guys backwards. He was working against Drew Moss, undrafted free agent out of Colorado State, who's got some real strength to him. One rep, Drew Moss stymied CJ West's bull rush. So what's happening here is that you saw CJ dominating so much during the early part of this training camp. And I think guys just weren't ready for his hand violence, his strength, his bull rush. All those things were creating a lot of problems for the 49ers offensive linemen. But it's a game of adjustments and counter adjustments. As this camp has progressed, the 49ers have seen CJ West not able to use his bull rush on every single snap. So Drew Moss stymied him once. He anchored his legs into the ground and he was able to stop CJ West coming straight at him. They matched up again just a couple minutes later in these one-on-ones, and CJ West went to his toolbox and grabbed some quickness out of it. And instead of going power, instead of going bull rush, it was just a little quick step, and he shot right by Drew Moss. So you like to see both of those things, right? You like to see people finally starting to stand up to CJ West and that strength. So you like to see some anchor from your young offensive lineman. I think that's something that Drew Moss probably is. You know, he's a really good run blocker because of his strength, but I think that because he's stronger than he is quick, I think that his anchor probably is one of his strong suits, so he put that to good use. But you also want to see CJ display something else than pure violence and power. You want to see some finesse from CJ West, because in the NFL, it's going to take a combination of both to succeed as a pass rusher. And especially now with growing pressure on that defensive tackle position with Kevin Givens out, the 49ers are absolutely going to need CJ West and Alfred Collins to continue refining their game, refining their pass rushing ability. It is all about combining finesse with power. You, as a defensive lineman in this league, you can't win with just one. You have to have both in the NFL, because this is the best of the best that you're going up against. And I think that we've seen some of that refinement, and we're watching it happen in real time right now at 49ers training camp. So, you know, I mentioned that this week is going to be very heavy on the transaction front. I wouldn't be surprised if even before practice tomorrow, the 49ers signed some guys, brought back some of the guys they just cut. Because today, for example, Andy Isabella, one of the receivers whom they signed a couple days ago, he hurt his ankle, and he's going to be day-to-day. So who's going to be able to suit up tomorrow for the 49ers? And then there's the joint practice against the Broncos on Thursday. So you need bodies to get through all of these sessions. And every single day presents a different challenge, because it's football. And guys get hurt, guys get dinged up. We are in the dog days of August. And it is absolutely vital to make sure that that roster is robust enough to run through all the reps, all the drills without overtaxation at any point in time. So that's where the 49ers are at right now. They're trying to make it through training camp. They're running out of some of the luxuries that they had before, like 2 kickers or 5 quarterbacks on the 90-man roster. They're making the moves to get through it. And yes, guys like Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy, even Terique Owens today making some explosive plays on that 49ers practice field. Be back out here tomorrow. Much more before then. Hit the notification bell Make sure you also hit the subscribe button and go check out the San Francisco Standard. The best 49ers coverage is all up there. Article is linked. It's going to be pinned in that comment section. We'll talk to you guys soon.